Season 1's here for Modern Warfare 3 and the Warzone integration, and the patch notes just dropped. Lots to go over in this one, a lot of changes you need to know about, from your weapon balancing to fundamental gameplay changes and all, so we're running through it all here today. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below, drop a like if you enjoy it or find it at all insightful, and subscribe for more Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone coverage going into the big integration and the year ahead here with Warzone and Modern Warfare 3 upcoming. Finally, check out my friends over at G Fuel for up to 30% off your entire order with code ESPRESSO to help fuel your COD grind here in Warzone and Urzikstan or whatever you may be doing, but more on that a little later. For now, let's jump into it. So there's a lot up on deck. We're just gonna breeze past some things that we've already talked about before. Others might take a little bit more focused discussion, but anyways, let's jump into it. On the Modern Warfare 3 side of things, first and foremost, base gameplay oriented here. Firstly, we have the player health and stamina bar, which are represented by a dynamic bar on that lower left portion of the HUD. Movement had a slight adjustment here in which it added a delay following the multiple rapid stance transitions to prevent unexploitable repetition, where crouch to stand is now 150 milliseconds, prone to stand is now 600 milliseconds. Now, in layman's terms, that's just simply they're combating snaking. They're introducing a way to introduce a cooldown or a sort of stamina in doing so with that. So the snaking, you'd see it more so highly competitive levels and in regular pub matches a lot. That should be something that is mitigated a bit. It's still there, but it isn't as exploitable as it was in the past. Spawns were stated to have improved spawn protection against enemy equipment and kill streaks. Believe it when I see it. And in hardpoint, several adjustments have been made to improve the flow of combat and increase control of team-owned areas. Now we get into the weapon tuning here for weapons and attachments, and this is something that it seems like it should spread across not only just Modern Warfare 3, but also Warzone. There was no specific Warzone tuning mentioned in the Warzone patch notes, so assumedly this is something that's across the board here at this. Firstly, the MTZ-556 saw an increase across the board to the maximum hipfire spread while standing and while crouched, as well as increasing that hipfire spread penalty incurred while firing and moving. So nerfs across the board to this one. The BAS-B, we saw an increase the damage multipliers and semi-auto fire type to the intended values, which sounds like a buff, but really it's more so just a course correct. It wasn't where it was supposed to be within the preseason here, and it's something that now I think should match the full auto variation of it. The Sidewinder decreased the aim down sight time from 280 milliseconds to 265 milliseconds, along with a few adjustments to specific attachments, but don't think that's going to be the saving grace of the Sidewinder. That wasn't the real problem with the weapon. The submachine guns, we saw the Striker, it decreased the sprint to fire time from 110 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds, and decreased the aim down sight times from 230 milliseconds to 215 milliseconds, so making the Striker a little snappier than it was before. So an already good weapon getting a buff there. The WSP Swarm saw a decrease in the sprint to fire time from 110 to only 88 milliseconds, and a decrease to the aim down sight time from 190 milliseconds to 175 milliseconds. The Striker 9 saw a decrease to the sprint to fire time from 110 to 100 milliseconds, and a decrease to the aim down sight time from 225 milliseconds to 205. The shotgun of the Lockwood 680 saw attack stance no longer reducing that damage pellet count, and the marksman rifles of the MCW 6.8 allowed a fix inbound where equipping the full auto conversion kit and the 60 round drum mag would no longer result in the broken aim down sights animation. The Riot Shield melee now increased that melee damage from 50 to 75, so a 2-hit kill, but also added a 10% movement speed penalty while stowed. We saw additional attachment adjustments here at this, where the biggest one to me was the hollow point ammunition. This decreased the inflicted sprint penalty from 800 milliseconds down to 200 milliseconds, which is a big change for sure, but I still think that the root cause of the issues with hollow point come down to not only just that, but the fact that it's mixed with a sort of flinch aspect on it as well, giving you two sort of ammo type penalties as somebody's getting hit with it, as opposed to the one that is listed. Now, we saw a handful of adjustments to the Modern Warfare 2 carry forward weapons, where they at base increased the reserve ammunition for all weapons to match the Modern Warfare 3 standards. They decreased hipfire spread benefits of the underbarrel vertical grips and decreased the hipfire spread benefit of the applicable lasers. But additional individual weapons, the M4 saw an increase to the maximum damage from 28 to 35, which is a significant buff here for that, which is interesting. A decrease to the head and damage neck multipliers from 1.37 to 1.1. The TAC-V saw an increase to the lower torso, leg, and foot damage multipliers. The Vaznev increased that near medium damage, and the ISO 45 increased the maximum damage. The shotgun of the KV broadside saw an increase to the far medium damage range and a decrease to the aim down sight spread slightly. The LMGs, the RAL, saw a decrease to the aim down sight speed, sprint to fire time, and tactical sprint to fire time, while the 5.56 Icarus saw an increase to the maximum damage and a decrease to the head damage multiplier. The marksman rifle of the SPR 208 increased the maximum damage range and decreased the aim down sight time, while the Basilisk, the last weapon adjusted, saw an increase to the maximum damage range, near to medium damage range, and the far medium damage range as well. You had a handful of adjustments in regard regards to the maps and various different issues and different bugs that happened here with this, you also saw in the game modes, firstly, Search and Destroy, the biggest one, there were increases to the player XP earned for several events. Now, the kills, if you're playing on High Rise, Search and Destroy, it will match what you had back in 2009. You get 500 XP per kill, 200 XP per assist. A shield assist is 400 XP, a headshot is 1000 XP, a plant is 1000 XP, a defuse is 1000 XP, and a ninja defuse is 1250 XP. So that's something that, just like the last days, you can play that risk reward and really rank up fast if you can absolutely shred through S&D lobbies. But other changes come in the way of Ground War, where the pregame lobby countdown will now no longer reset when a player leaves. That was a bug that was kind of annoying here because you, of course, had 64 players. If one person ends up leaving over and over, well, you're never going to start that game. Then War, players who join an in-progress match can now no longer be placed on a full team. The tank escort phase time limit is now down from 6 minutes to 5 minutes, and joining an in-progress match during the ending cinematic sequence is no longer possible. So again, kind of just wasting your time on that where you wouldn't get to play at all. We saw various number of fixes for equipment, like the throwing star addressing one-hit kills, the EMD grenade, deployable cover and trophy system where the mosquito drone will now no longer be targeted, and a handful of other things in regards to vehicles and kill streaks. Now, one thing that was mentioned that I do quite enjoy is that the mastery camos now have an increase to that animation speed. So if it was something that was a little too slow for you, that's something that now will be adjusted here and should be hopefully at a faster pace and more appealing perhaps to look at. Beyond that, of course, we know that all of those new things that we see for Season 1 are coming. Those new maps, those new weapons, those new aftermarket parts, the new operators, the new battle pass, the new events, the new PC features, all that kind of stuff is coming here with that. So that's the Modern Warfare 3 side of things. Let's jump on over to the Warzone side of things because we still have a lot to talk about there as well. Some of the stuff we might breeze over here just because we've talked about it in the past, but let's start at the top. The backup pistol is something you now have where ledge hanging, climbing a ladder, or swimming underwater, you'll always have a pistol. It won't be something that you can normally swap to. If you have two weapons, you're going to swap to those. But if you are in one of those situations where you cannot use a primary, the pistol is always going to be there, even if it is just the base pistol. Locational damage multipliers have been adjusted where that is something that's been more flattened to provide a consistent time to kill. Headshot multipliers are broadly decreased and arms now match the torso. The Cat AMR will now one shot to the head at any distance. Noticeably, the XRK Stalker was not mentioned here in this one. Again, might be something that's just talking about the brought over weapons and not the stuff introduced with Season 1. So we'll see if that is a one-shot kill potential with that, because it was a very powerful sniper in the multiplayer, and it seemed like it would have been up there with the one-shot kill philosophy, but right now it doesn't seem like that. The Riot Shield has the same properties as multiplayer, and weapon tuning was removed across the board for Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 weapons. Of course, that is something that tuning may end up coming back in the way of tuning for the optics for far or near eye position in the future, but right now that's not the case. Launchers had their damage adjusted across the board here, and then we get into the core gameplay mechanics. Of course, classic red dots now return on the minimap. If you are firing an unsuppressed weapon, that is something you'll show up in that vicinity here if somebody's around you. Reload canceling is now a thing once again. No more staged reloads, which got me killed quite a few times, so happy about that. The improved water combat now includes better visibility. We have the reintroduction of a feature that was resurgence only for a while, but redeploy weapons. If you're being brought back, it'll now grant a weapon based on whatever current circle number you're in, with the weapons improving in later circles, giving you a fighting chance no matter what here at that, which is definitely nice. We also see loot had a handful of adjustments here where the ground and supply box loot pool was adjusted. We have rarity coming back where you now have the color breakdowns on those icons of what you can pick up. Legendary is orange, epic's purple, rare is blue, uncommon's green, and common is white or that gray. The ground spread will now be better distributed, and the revive pistol is something that's entirely removed from the loot pool but may return in a future season. That's something that I think is nice because I haven't played a whole ton in Season 6 for Warzone, but that was something that at least for like 3 to maybe even 4 seasons before that, it was something that would allow players to die instantaneously instead of even going into a down state if it had any sort of use cases with it. If you picked it up off a dead body, chances are you were going to die without a down state as is. So nice to see that removed for assumedly bug fixing purposes. The backpack will now have a new layout, of course, slightly adjusted. Navigation wrapping is a thing now, so once you get to the farthest left or farthest right, it will then go back to that opposite side side instead of having to scroll across every single item to get there once again, which is nice. You have dedicated ammo slots, which again, you pick up every single piece of ammo, but you don't necessarily have to just take that. You can take another stack of whatever you want. You're just always going to have that base of whatever you found and walked over, which is nice. It's a sort of hybrid system, I think, between original Warzone and what was introduced with Warzone 2. Gulag entry kits can now be stowed, enabling pickup to share for teammate sharing use. Identical kill streaks will auto-equip, and there'll be a Gulag and redeploy tracker, where the backpack now displays if you have a Gulag entry kit or redeploy pack available to use. Pings will now no longer highlight that door frame you're in if you're looking outside of a sort of door from inside a building to out in like a field or something. That was incredibly annoying. Definitely nice to see that. Kill cam pings are definitely something that's nice as well. Players will see if somebody is pinged in that kill cam to give more information. So if somebody knows that you're there, they're going to have that information readily available for you to see if they killed you. The interact distance for the buy station was increased from 10 meters to 30 meters, which is a very healthy increase. That's something you're going to be able to interact with that for a long while. Might even be problematic. I probably would have gone to like 15 or 20 meters if I'm extending that, but honestly, I didn't have too much of an issue with that interaction distance, but maybe that's just me. Icon visibility was something that was improved. Loadout purchases have been adjusted. Solos are down to 7,500, duos is 10,000, trios is 1,250, and quads is 1,500. The gas mask is now manual equipable. Again, you can equip it or stow it. And the gas mask overlay is something that was adjusted to provide a clearer field of view when in action. The circle pacing, as we touched on in yesterday's video briefly, but like later on in the video, so if you didn't see it, that's something that was adjusted. Now games will end up lasting around 20 minutes as opposed to the 25 to like 27 they could have with the regular big map BR. So the total time until the end match is now 20 minutes and 20 seconds, increasing that pace of play and hopefully mitigating some of that sort of nerf to the player count from 150 to 100. The circles are now faster. The overall match time is quicker. So that should be something that, while mixed with the smaller area then of Urzikstan compared to Al Mazrah, you should have hopefully a more even distribution as well in terms of pacing, that you wouldn't notice it a whole ton. Gas damage now increases to 10 per tick, up from 9. Redeploy drones have been buffed, where they will end up launching players further and also have some different adjustments to when they remain stationary, when they move. The Death's Door sort of low player health overlay, that's something that activation now triggers at a lower warning at 40% health rather than 55, so you won't be as annoyed by it perhaps, and the visibility was increased during it. The spawn rates for the Gulag entry kits and redeploy packs have been increased. Strongholds are now no longer guaranteed to spawn every single match. They'll be linked to a new public event. And the black site, that will still be there every single game, but because you're not going to capture strongholds and get that key every game perhaps, you're now going to see that ending up being also in the regular loot pool, those keys. So anybody can get that black site key. It is something that is a bit more RNG, but we'll see how that approaches in terms of flow and sort of fairness, I guess, in all of that. Perks, of course, you end up having new perks. Flex is actually that one that was called Faculty, where it will delay the triggered explosives while sprinting and warns of nearby enemy equipment while reducing combat noise. So that's something that was, the name just changed, and then all the other stuff we've talked about before, while also having those, a couple that were at base for the movement adjustments. Ghost now blocks detection by UAV, but only when moving. Now, fingers crossed, this is now with a fix in check as well, where it will give that sort of cooldown effect where you start running to then when you stop running. But right now, as it was pre-patch, it was something that was instantaneous. The moment you stopped moving, that ghost effect was not active in Modern Warfare 3. I'm hoping for like a 1 to 2 to 3 second cooldown for where you end up having that in motion progress of you start to get shielded by it, but then when you come to a stop, it like gradually lets up in like about 3 seconds or so. Bird's Eye, your UAV kill streak, portable radar, and UAV tower now show the heading of enemies for your squad, and it will also detect ghosted players. So that's something that can also be acquired by the comms plate carrier as well as the perk itself. Double time now increases the attack sprint duration and reduces refresh time even further, but no longer increases prone and crouch speeds. So again, kind of mitigating that snaking. Plate carriers return in the tempered, medic, comms, and stealth plate carriers, and again, those movement and agility perks of tac pads, commando pro, quick grip, and climbing boots are now all there by default. You also have tac stance to work with, which can be toggled, which is nice, and you have the ADS while sliding feature returning. The big game bounty and scavenger contracts return, definitely nice for that. Absolutely love that kind of stuff. And the bounty contract, that standard one, now gives a single UAV ping whenever you end up killing that player. Beyond that, there's a ton of mention of things that are just returning in regards to like kill streaks and other things like that. But one thing to note with this update is that the combat record going further will be something that's rolled out in stages here. The combat record, at first, you're going to have all your stuff tracked of Battle Royale in Season 1. Nothing else in regards to combat record. Season 2 will introduce the combat record for Resurgence, and Season 3 will introduce the combat record for Plunder. But the biggest and key thing to note is that your stats are not lost. Everything will track from day one here with this update, but it just won't be displayed on that sort of user interface end just yet. So when you get to Season 2, when you get to Season 3, all of your stats for Resurgence and Plunder should be accurate. You will have all of the games you played up until that point accounted for. It's just this strange rollout of how they're going to introduce it in the combat record. And all in all, I kind of think that is where we're at here with Season 1 and all of the changes of at least massive importance, I think, that you should know about here with this update. So that is where we're going to call it. That is what we're going to do here with Modern Warfare 3 Season 1 and Warzone, and where we can wrap it up. Now, before we do that, make sure to check out my friends over at G Fuel. Code Espresso can get up to 30% off your entire order here to fuel your COD grind this season with Season 1 for the new weapons in Modern Warfare 3. If you want to grind out Urzikstan, if you're getting ready for ranked play in Season 1 Reloaded, whatever the case, G Fuel's got you covered. They're like my cup of coffee in the morning. Start my day and productivity with them. Flavors of hype sauce, strawberry banana, pink trip, the Morbius nectarine flavor, Pog juice. Love all those. So if you guys want to check those out or more, now's a great time to get a restock or try it out for the very first time. Again, Code Espresso getting you up to 30% off your entire order. But for now, that is what we're going to call it. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of these changes? Like them, dislike them, whatever the case, drop your thoughts. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing running all things Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone as we gear up for a busy year ahead here at this. So love to have you in the community. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.